Hi, welcome to week 2 of MPH 510. So we made it through the first week. It's actually Friday when I'm recording this, but I wanted to get this done and so I can get this up on Blackboard for you. Thank you for your posts. I really enjoyed reading your introductory posts and seeing the background that you were all bringing to the program. And it was great to see the interaction that some of you had over the discussion board. So, I mean, these are going to be your classmates, your cohort mates, throughout the course of the program. So, please take every opportunity to interact with one another, get to know one another, because I think you'll really have a great opportunity to learn from each other, just based on the very different passions that you bring to the program, and that's fantastic. I mean, that's what a program like this should be. It should be a collection of people who really have the opportunity to learn themselves, but also teach one another. And I think you are set up very well to that end. So thank you very much. Last week we talked about the social determinants of health. That's a big topic from your readings, and as we talked about in last week's video. There's a lot of thought that goes into looking at what causes disease or health behaviors, things of that. And the social determinants of health really maps that out. There's linkages from all different areas, from policy up through the intra dependent, so your individual personal characteristics, and behaviors and outcomes. And so there are all sorts of them. And as we kind of go through and try to better understand our world and how it interacts with health, we open our minds to hypothesize, and look at those connections that maybe haven't been seen or aren't being properly addressed. But in looking at those connections, because they are so varied and not always that easy to nail down, it does bring up a point that in health research, it's very important that when we talk about a connection between some social determinant and a health outcome, including health behaviors, it's important that you have someone who backs you up, ideally through research. So, you might see something and believe that A leads to B, but obviously to help hammer the point home, you want to have research that proves that that's the case. As we see in today's climate, today's environment, even what most people believe, most scientists believe to be hard and fast truths, are disputed. So it's very important that you have that confidence in what you're reporting. And I bring that up to kind of hit on what will be an important part of your writing, especially with this being an online course, the writing that will be necessary for this course and this program, and that's the use of APA style. Now, I imagine a lot of you had worked with APA beforehand, but now they on the master's level program, it becomes pretty much necessary to familiarize yourself with APA and just get comfortable with it, especially in this case when we're talking about citing references, which is what we were asked to do as part of your first discussion. And so I'll put up a link on the course Blackboard site for the Purdue OWL site, which is an acronym, I'm assuming, for Online Writing Lab, but they do a great job. It's a really great site, if you haven't looked at it, to give you basically every conceivable use of references in APA style. So it's great, and I invite you to use that. I use it quite a bit. But you'll want to get comfortable with it because, I mean, APA style and then the use of it, when you have researchers all over the world, it's nice to have at least some sort of consistency. And this is one of the ways that gets done. So if you're curious about how this factors into grading, if you did not use APA this first week, I won't be docking you. But there will be an expectation as we go through the course, and certainly as you go through the program, that is standard practice, that you use that and use it correctly. So it will factor into the final paper grade, so please make sure you work on that. And if you have any questions, let me know. So that was last week. Moving on to this week, we'll be covering a lot of ground. In an 8-week class, you kind of have to cover big chunks of it every week, and this is no exception. So we'll be talking about several macro level topics, or that will be discussed in your reading and in your assignment. This includes the functions of public health, and then moving on to different operational topics, including infrastructure for public health activities, things like data surveillance, sharing of data, all sorts of things like that. But the biggest part of this week, and your reading in particular, is going to be focused on health systems and on healthcare systems. So we've all had and continue to have a direct interaction, with healthcare systems at different levels, and hopefully as you meet with and work with different medical professionals in your personal life, you're able to develop connections with them as individuals, as people who truly care about your health and well-being, and I think in most cases it does work both ways. They see you as an individual who care, and you see them as a person who's there to serve, and to serve you and your health and well-being. The reality is that, as true as that is, they do work within this massive system, our healthcare system, which is confusing and oftentimes not fair. So it's important that as public health workers, and as public health researchers, and as you delve more and more into it, you gain as much of an understanding as you can about a very confusing and complicated topic, because it is so integral to how we do our work in the field of public health. So, healthcare systems are very different all around the world, and you'll be looking at a New York Times article. They'll ask you to compare and contrast different ones. And one of them is certainly the United States. Here in the U.S., there will be, tens of thousands of people, maybe more, who will lose sleep tonight because of a newly diagnosed disease or condition, for themselves or a loved one. But there will also be a good number of those who will lose sleep, not just because of the disease, but because they'll be thinking to themselves, how in the world am I going to pay for this? And, that's not fair. That's not equitable. Having cancer is a horrible thing for anybody to deal with. To then have that knock them on their proverbial rear end financially, it's not fair. It's not right. So then the alternative people look to, as we're getting into an election cycle, we talk about that more and more, other healthcare systems, universal healthcare. Like in the Scandinavian countries, it's brought up, but then there's the UK with their health service. There's Canada with their healthcare service, where I believe it's largely government funded, funneled through health providers, and people can buy supplemental insurance. So it's not like Medicare. In that case, and when I was in Toronto this past summer, in the elevator with our hotel, they had a little TV screen to give you, brief news updates, and one of them said something like 70% of Canadians are proud of our healthcare system. That's very strong, and I imagine it's higher than it is here in the U.S. But it does ask the question: well, what about the other 30%? What are their complaints about it? And so it does point out that there is no perfect solution. There really is no healthcare system that gets it completely right. And so part of the activity that you will have to do, for that, based on that New York Times article, is you'll be asked to compare and contrast, but also sort of step outside of yourself. We all have our inclinations, our biases, our deeply held beliefs, and that's good. But you also have to allow yourself to step back and in this case, look at the different healthcare systems and what is best. Of course, defining best isn't an exact science, and it's going to vary from person to person. And so, it's something that you'll have to do, and that's taking what can be and is a very emotionally driven topic, and allow yourself to, at least to a degree, leave that off to the side and try to think as objectively as possible. So it'll be a good activity. I look forward to seeing what you present and what your perceptions are of the different healthcare systems. It's a very informative article. I learned a lot, and I'm sure you will too. So enjoy it and dive right into it and take advantage of the opportunities to really develop your skills in this field. So with that in mind, so our assignments, let's see, by Saturday, you do need to do that healthcare system discussion, that post by the end of the day Saturday. You're going to be selecting your final paper topic for the end of the class. I imagine most of you have that in mind, but so this is the start of your paper. So really put thought into it and make that final decision about what you want to write and dive into. And then of course there's the quiz. Quiz number 2, due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. You have 2 chances. We take the best score. It's open book. So yeah, that's all I got for this week. I hope you are all doing well, and enjoying yourselves. And so, with that in mind, take care, keep up on your work, and of course, be well.